this is going to linger with us for a generation.
HUD Secretary Dr. Ben Carson looks to the future after COVID-19. Plus,
I am cautiously optimistic that we will not have to go through this process again.
Dr. Nicole Saphier gives her predictions for the days ahead. And Dr. Dena Grayson is back to answer more of your questions about the pandemic. That and so much more.
Bring us the cure on the corner now. Bring us the cure tonight.
Right now in America, this week, United We Stand. Welcome to America This Week, United We Stand. I'm Eric Bolling. The goal of United We Stand is to bring you the latest information, answer your questions, and bring you stories of hope because, in the end, we're all in this together. I spoke with Dr. Nicole Saphier, who's with Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Take a listen. If one of our audience members is watching right now and they may have found a suspicious mass or a lump, do they immediately go and get it checked, or because of what's going on with coronavirus, do they wait till things calm down? What's your recommendation?
That's a really big question and something that we're struggling with a lot right now, especially in this time with COVID-19. And so, unfortunately, we have people that are staying home. They're not seeking medical attention because they're more worried about coronavirus than perhaps something else. But the truth is, delayed cancer care as well as delayed medical care for other issues could actually be significantly worse than COVID-19 itself. So absolutely, if you were to find a new lump or you have some new symptoms, you want to be calling your doctors. You don't want to be so paralyzed in fear from coronavirus that you're neglecting other things that could actually be wreaking havoc.
On a scale of 1 to 100, what are the odds, what are the chances that we're going to have to, number one, social distance, I guess we'll still be doing it, but number two, shelter in place? Are we going to be back in our homes again come this fall? Your thoughts?
I am cautiously optimistic that we will not have to go through this process again. We're not going to have to get to that point where we're going to be sheltering in place. But the truth is, this is a novel coronavirus. It's proven to be more contagious than other viruses that have been circulating for years. And so when one person has it, they will tend to infect a lot more people than is what we've seen in the past with the common cold or the flu. And the truth is, we don't have a proven treatment or a vaccine readily available yet. However, this is why I'm optimistic, because I do believe in the integrity of the American people right now. They're seeing what we are going through right now, and they know we don't want to get back to this place again.
I also had a chance to interview HUD Secretary Dr. Ben Carson, who's also on the president's coronavirus task force. We discussed the possible comeback of COVID-19. Here's what he had to say. Let's talk a little bit about this new recent idea that the CDC has come out with, saying that coronavirus, COVID-19, will reemerge with a vengeance come fall, about the same time that we're going to hit with another flu season. Tell us what to expect.
Well, it's not unusual for viruses to reemerge, but what we have to keep in mind is that we've learned a lot about this virus during these last few months and continue to learn. There are multiple trials going on in terms of therapeutics as well as vaccines. So by the time it reemerges, not only will we have those things in hand, but people have learned a lot about personal hygiene, about hand washing, about social distancing. So I don't think we would go through anywhere near the same degree of trauma if, in fact, it does reemerge.
Dr. Carson, I wrote a monologue about this exact topic, that America may have changed permanently, not necessarily for the better, for the worse, but I just look forward maybe a month into the future, or a year into the future, 5 years into the future. Will there be a time where I won't reach for someone's hand to shake their hand or kiss a relative or a grandparent and not have in the back of my mind, am I opening myself up to some sort of viral risk? Have we not changed forever in America because of this virus?
I think you're right on target there. This is going to linger with us for a generation anyway. And it could be that 2,000 years ago, this might have happened in Japan. Maybe that's why they bow to each other now instead of shaking hands. But the fact of the matter is, you look at how many things change. People have learned, teleworking, and people have learned how to do schooling in a distant manner. So all of that's going to change. And when you combine that with the great increases in knowledge about IT and virtual reality. Can you imagine how much easier it's going to be to put on a headset and be in a conference room full of people than to, go through the traffic in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, well, your doctors always look at it that way. You're used to getting all PPP'd up, and I get that, personal protective equipment. I get that. Here's the question, though. Coming back in the fall, if the CDC is right, we have another COVID-19 outbreak. We have the flu outbreak. Are we still, and you're on the coronavirus task force, are we going to still be at the mercy of China and India for some of the supplies that we so gravely need and are so gravely short of this time around?
Hopefully we've learned that lesson. We're in the process right now of trying to make sure that all of the critical equipment and the medications have a supply chain that originates here in the United States. That's one of the most important lessons I think that we've learned.
Doctor, one final question. This is devastating. The retirement communities, the nursing home communities. We're seeing it across the country. Can you, as a doctor, put your doctor hat on, put your stethoscope on, so to speak, pinpoint the reason for that? Is that a lack of support by staff working there, or is it? I mean, I know you're going to tell me people of that age group are highly susceptible to it, but they're dying in massive numbers. Is part of the blame to be put on the nursing homes?
Well, there's no question that we're going to have to learn how to treat higher risk patients. And basically, you have higher risk people in nursing homes. You have a higher death rate in general in nursing homes because frequently that's a person's last stop before they die. But we don't want to accelerate their exit by being careless in the way that we have caretakers moving from room to room. And that needs to be something that we do on a permanent basis all the time, not just when we're having outbreaks of viruses.
I know a little bit about this. I have a niece who works in a nursing home, and the level of registration issue, you don't even need to be a registered nurse to work in a nursing home. You need a CNA, which is a certified nurse's assistant. Is that a high enough level of accreditation to be taking care of people who may be infected with this virus going forward? Not this time around, I get it. We're behind the eight ball on this, but going forward, do we need to raise that? That could cost a lot of money.
Well, certainly those individuals can be taught the proper protocols. Working for many years in a hospital like Johns Hopkins, you had a lot of nurses' aides, you had, maintenance people, and we made sure that they all understood what was necessary, particularly when they were entering an area of disease. So these are things that have to become ingrained as part of the protocol when you onboard somebody into a healthcare facility. I think that's something that we have to learn and we have to emphasize and we have to insist on if we want our people not only to live, but not to become transporters of disease.
Yeah, indeed, and doctor, and the difference being when you're hired into a program at Johns Hopkins, you have doctors, you have senior doctors, you have fellows, you have high-level nurses, well-trained people. I'm talking about where there may not be the access to the funds in a nursing home, and there may be an inordinate number of CNAs as nurses assistants versus a registered nurse or higher. Maybe it's something we need to look at. Listen, I'm for smaller government, but when it gets to this level, I believe maybe there's some regulatory situations we need to look into. I know that's not your hat, but we're fortunate to have one of the best doctors, premier doctors in the country, Dr. Ben Carson. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Ahead on America This Week, United We Stand, pandemic expert Dr. Dena Grayson is back to answer your questions.
United we stand, we never fall. This perilous fight, it takes one and all. Everyone stands, American strong. Strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time. We stand.
Pandemic expert Dr. Dena Grayson is back with us this week to answer more of your questions about the coronavirus. Okay, thank you, doctor. Let's get right to the questions. Twitter user Lucy, who watches our show on KRCG in Jefferson City, Missouri, asks, I hear a lot about high blood pressure being a high risk factor. Is someone who is treating high blood pressure successfully with medication and exercises considered high risk for complications should they get sick? Doctor.
Well, unfortunately, just having high blood pressure itself, even if well treated, is considered to be a risk factor for COVID-19, for severe illness. And it's not entirely clear why that is, but it appears that the cells that line your blood vessels, they're called endothelial cells, that there tends to be a major dysfunction of these cells during the coronavirus infection that may be underlying some of this hyper inflammation, but also these clots that are occurring. And high blood pressure can actually cause that damage to the lining, these endothelial cells. So unfortunately, the answer is likely yes.
So even though she's being treated successfully, she may have would that be considered a comorbidity?
It certainly would be, Eric. Even diabetes that's well treated would be considered a significant comorbidity.
Okay, let's ask number two. A viewer asked, is wearing a mask and washing hands and not touching your face, is it really effective considering they can't create a vaccine or legitimate medicine? In other words, how effective are these recommendations from the CDC?
Well, in fact, washing your hands and not touching your face are really the most important things, especially considering we don't have a vaccine. We won't have a vaccine very likely for at least a year. And at least right now, there are no proven medicines effective for this deadly coronavirus. So this virus's kryptonite is soap. And so washing your hands is really the best thing you can do.
Yeah. All right. Sometimes as simple as that. Mom told you wash your hands. You got to wash your hands. Another viewer wanted to know, with so many unvalidated COVID-19 deaths, how can we really trust the numbers that we're being given? And this is really an important question. Another viewer also asked us, last week we had Dr. Colby Grossman on, who said that he's being told to list the cause of death as COVID-19, even if a test hasn't been administered to the corpse or to the body of the person who died.
Well, your viewer is spot on. Unfortunately, in the midst of a pandemic, it's difficult to confirm every case, let alone every death. And of course, I think your viewers are well aware that testing has been a real problem for many months, unfortunately. So it's common that when these fast-moving outbreaks, that you can't catch every death, at least initially, but certainly there's very strong evidence. For example, in New York City, looking at the number of what we call unexpected deaths that are, increased levels of deaths over what we've seen in prior years at this time. In New York City alone, that number is fourfold higher right now. So, certainly we should expect the actual death toll to be much higher. And as time goes on, I think you're going to see those numbers be corrected upward, unfortunately.
Dr. Grayson, Phil on Twitter asks, will we ever have a normal life again? And you were on the show last week and I asked you, a scale of 1 to 100, what are the chances of having to shelter in place again? And you said likely 100, given what the CDC has told us what's going to happen come this fall. Your thoughts?
Well, ever again is a very long time. So the answer is yes, of course, we will have a normal life once again. But I do think that things will have a new normal here for at least the foreseeable 12 to 18 months, unfortunately, and where we will have, in the absence of very widespread aggressive testing and contact tracing, I think we're looking at a minimum periodic lockdowns, and some of those lockdowns could be rather prolonged, unfortunately, at least in certain areas of the country.
And you still want to go with that 100% likelihood that we're going to get locked back into our homes?
Well, in the absence, Eric, of very widespread aggressive testing, I think the chances of widespread lockdowns are a near certainty. I mean, we got a little bit lucky with this first wave of infections occurring more towards the tail end of cold and flu season. And next flu season, we're going to have that full 6 months, unfortunately.
Dr. Dena Grayson, always great to have you, and maybe we're going to get that number down to maybe 75 and 50 and 25% as we go forward. We'll have you back, Dr. Grayson. Thank you very much for your expertise. Our viewers really appreciate you. Ahead on America This Week, United We Stand. How should you be spending your money during a financial crisis? Next, I talk with financial expert Rachel Cruze. You don't want to miss this one.
United we stand, we never fall. This perilous fight, it takes one and all. Everyone stands, American strong. Strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time.
We stand American strong.
United we stand.
We stand American strong.
City by city, state by state, town by town, stand American great. Everyone stands American strong. When strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time.
We stand American strong.
United we stand.
We stand American strong.
United we stand.
America This Week, America's fastest growing political show, points out how rough and tumble politics shape opinion in every region in our country. We tell American stories, stories that touch our people, determine our politics, focus on the future of America.
I'm Eric Bolling. Join me for a fascinating look at America This Week. She's a best-selling author, financial expert, and you may recognize her from her father, Dave Ramsey's show. This week, I spoke with financial expert Rachel Cruze about what you should be doing right now as the pandemic continues. Here's what she told me. Rachel, let's talk a little bit about what you call the four walls, and let's talk to people about what they can do in times like these, when maybe they're not working, maybe they're on unemployment, maybe they're waiting for that PPP check. You say the four walls: food, utilities, shelter, and transportation. Explain what you mean.
Yeah, that's right. You want to prioritize the money that you have coming in. Again, whether it's unemployment or 2 part-time jobs you have, or your regular paycheck if you're still employed, making sure you're so purposeful with that money. This is a time that a lot of Americans are strapped, so you want to make sure that those 4 things are covered. Again, food, shelter, utilities, transportation. That's really your needs versus your wants. So I don't want you current on MasterCard and not putting food on the table. So make sure you're prioritizing where your money's going.
Interesting you point that out, and that's my biggest problem, honestly. Look, I've been a pro-Trump advocate since 2015, since before the guy decided to run. My problem is with Mnuchin and the Treasury Department. They're sending out checks, $1,200 checks to people, which is great, fantastic, except they're not telling them what to do with it. And Rachel, your point, you're kind of hitting into what my recommendation to them was, which I wanted them to get a prepaid debit card. I wanted every household to get one, and you're forced to use it or lose it. You're forcing the money back into the economy. What you're saying is this $1,200, these people, let's say you're married and you have a kid, you get a $1,200 check in the mail. You're saying don't pay down credit cards, don't pay off a car loan, don't make a mortgage payment. Is that right?
Well, yeah, making sure that it's going to those 4 walls. I mean, you want to use that stimulus check as something that's going to make a strong foundation for your family. Again, we're not worried about what's going on in Washington. I'm worrying about what's going on in your home. So if you still have an income coming in and you get that stimulus, you can go ahead and start paying down debt for sure. But if you're someone that's lost a job, take that stimulus check and save it. It's not your job right now to 100% stimulate the economy right this moment. It's your job right now to take care of your family. And again, that's making sure that you're current on your rent and mortgage, you have food on the table, and your lights and water are still on. So making sure that that's there and saving
you're
it if you need to.
You're going to make my head explode, Rachel. You're going to make my head explode. You are going to make my head explode. if you get a $1,200 check and you stick it in and you pay a back mortgage payment, now we know there's going to be some leeway with paying mortgages and paying rents going forward. If you're doing that, you're not helping the economy at all. And I get it. You're helping yourself, but you're not helping the economy at all. When these checks come in, they're for the greater good of the greater economy, not just the individual, right?
It is, but I do believe that when you have a firm foundation under you and you get money coming in maybe in 3-4 months, you're actually going to have money to spend then, and it's not stressing you out. Again, my hope is that Americans are getting that firm foundation under them within their household, making sure that that's covered. Because when that's done and then they're working, they're making money, that's when they can go and upgrade cars, they can go and stimulate the economy. But right now, for Americans, my advice is your job is to take care of your household first and foremost.
What about people who say, wow, this is a really good opportunity to buy some stocks 40, 30% lower than they were a couple of months ago? What do you say to them?
Yeah, it absolutely is if you're in a position to invest. So our recommendation always is to be out of debt, have a fully funded emergency fund, and then fund 15% of your income into retirement. So if you're at that place, yeah, the stock market, it's on sale. Go for it. But I don't want you doing that again if you still have debt payments and you have no money saved in the bank that's liquid that you can get to if you need that as an emergency. So making sure those things are covered.
Now, I'm going to throw you a tough
position.
I'm going to throw you a hard question. We're watching the oil markets just fall apart. I've seen oil go negative for the first time in the history of the oil markets. You spent 20 years in the oil pits trading the oil. Based on an oil price this week, gasoline should be about 60 or 70 cents a gallon. That's the truth.
Yes.
That's the reality. Well, let's just say we somehow do see $1 or $1.25 gallon of gasoline. That's a massive savings for the average American households. What do you say to those families who allot for that gasoline or that electric bill, who are going to save a lot of money? What do you do with that money?
Of what you're going to save for it, then you're going to put it, definitely to other bills and to be purposeful. That's why I even just recommend just doing a zero-based budget. If you're saving on money there, I mean, and most people are not driving to work, so then that's money back in your pocket there. But be purposeful with where it goes. And so making sure you're giving every single dollar a name. Again, we covered the 4 walls, taking care of that first. And then if you have that income coming in, putting it towards debt. Because once you're debt-free and you're not paying out bills, then you actually have money to spend and stimulate the economy like you like, Eric.
Gotta love it. I do. I like it because I like my idea because it stimulates the economy. It also makes the consumer feel pretty good. It doesn't shore up the individual household's budget. And you said something very importantly. I just, if you have 20 seconds to give, zero-based budgeting. Just explain that term.
Absolutely. It's your income minus expenses equals 0. So every dollar coming in is assigned to a category. It's really the most efficient way to do a budget for a household.
Don't go into debt, and whatever you have left over, buy some cheap stocks, I guess. Right, Rachel? Rachel Cruze would say thank you very much. Bets to the old man, and I mean that exactly the way I said it. Old man Dave Ramsey. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Next, walking with a purpose. The message this man hopes to bring following a journey that will last hundreds of miles. While many folks are spending more time on the couch, a man from Florida has started a 400-mile journey on foot. He lost his job due to the coronavirus shutdown. Now he wants to raise awareness about the number of people who've been financially impacted. Madeline Montgomery with Sinclair Station WPEC shares his story from West Palm Beach.
packing up and heading out.
My route right now is 417 miles, give or take, and I would say 12 to 13 days.
Bo Guyot was laid off from his job at the Bin Hotel almost a month ago.
I've been in the hospitality industry since I was a teenager, and it means a lot to me. So do the people I work with.
He's one of many without a job right now and without a clue of when he'll be employed again.
We don't know when it ends. So that's where the frustration lies.
That's what motivated Bo to make the long trek to Tallahassee, to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity.
The point of this trek, so to speak, is to stop in several towns on the way up to Tallahassee and interview out-of-work Floridians.
Bo wants to share those stories at the DEO when he gets there. He hopes to find a job opportunity with the department and maybe hear an apology.
I think it would be refreshing if someone said, we messed up, or we're not getting it done on the schedule that we thought we were going to get it done on.
Hospitality workers along Bo's route have already offered to house and feed him.
With the closure of our industry, there's a kinship there. So people have already been reaching out.
He'll be documenting his walk on Facebook and on Instagram under the name The Walk to Tallahassee. For America This Week, Madeline Montgomery.
And thank you to Madeline WPEC for that story. And thank you for joining me for another America This Week, United We Stand. Remember, if you have a question for one of our experts, use the hashtag COVID-19 Ask, all one word, and tweet us. Tonight, we leave you with something special. Matt Hensler is a surgeon in Cincinnati who spent weeks in quarantine after he was exposed to someone with COVID-19. During that time, he decided to remake one of Billy Joel's classic songs. We think he did a pretty darn good job. Check it out.
And this does go out to Dr. Fauci, because to all of us, you're the Corona man. It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday. My neighbor asks how I've been. He's an old man, 6 feet from me, getting quinine from his tonic and gin. He said, son, this COVID's, yeah,